Hey guys, this is Bales. I'm at FantasyLabs looking at the quarterback ratings within NFL player models, and I wanted to talk about a stat that we have called opponent plus minus. I had seen some questions about this and just wanted to explain it and show how I personally use it. So opponent plus minus is the number of points above or below expectation that a defense has allowed to a certain position. So Brian Hoyer is the top quarterback in this model this week, and the Patriots have allowed 3.3 points above expectation to opposing quarterbacks. So that's an example of a defense that maybe is a little bit overrated perhaps against opposing quarterbacks. A lot of the time I think they are up in games, so they get thrown on a lot, and then also they have faced over the past 12 months some pretty poor quarterbacks in their division, so they get 6 games against some weaker quarterbacks for sure. So this helps to adjust for opponent because plus minus is obviously based on salary. So Hoyer cost 5,200 this week. He is historically projected to score 12.6 points. That's the implied points. Players who have cost that much or around that much on DraftKings, or quarterbacks around that much, have scored 12.6 points on average. So if the Patriots give up 15.6 points to Hoyer, they would have an opponent plus minus allowed of plus 3, which means that Hoyer scored 3 points more than he was supposed to. So this is a running 12-month total, like most of our stats. So over the past 12 months, the Patriots have allowed 3.3 points above what you'd expect based on opponent salaries. And I just think it's a really predictive stat. I like to use it a lot to factor in the opponent, and it's something that is really valuable, I think, just because of how well it can adjust for opponents and how easily, because we know that DraftKings or FanDuel or these sites are doing their best to price players accurately. Over the long run, they do price players accurately for the most part. So there's a reason that Brian Hoyer's 5,200 and Cam Newton's 7,500 this week. We expect Newton to score more points, obviously. So salary will more or less be a rough guide for how quarterbacks or any position should be ranked. So adjusting for that is really important. Some of the limitations of it, defenses I think are pretty holistic. So if you add or subtract one or two important parts, I think it can change the dynamic of a defense. So you always need to think about that. So opponent plus minus is one of those stats that I don't think you can just take at face value. You have to really sort of consider why the number is that high or low, and then if there's anything that happened to the defense or specific to the matchup or factoring in the Vegas lines that would make you think that the number isn't accurate. A big injury, obviously. Some defenses have just pivotal players, like a Revis, for example, who can totally change the dynamic of a defense or really shut down corners, I think. Not to go on too much of a tangent, but they're so valuable because they can lock down a top receiver. You get to throw a safety over top of the opposing receiver, the number 2, so you can help your weaker cornerback. You can bring another safety down in the box, so it really helps both the run and the pass when you have a player like that. So you lose a player like that, the opponent plus minus might be a little bit off, but all stats are pretty much going to suffer from that same problem. So of those sort of stats that are supposed to quantify the true quality of a defense versus a position, I think that ours does a pretty good job of that. And finally, the last thing I'll say is I do think that how much you factor in the opponent should depend on the position. So quarterbacks, for example, I think are more dependent on the quality of the opponent because their play is less volatile. They throw again and again and again, so they have just more opportunities to face that defense and for their play to regress toward the mean and for the defense's sort of true colors to show than, say, a wide receiver who could get shut down the entire game and then go deep for an 80-yard pass, a fluky touchdown. That would totally change everything. So opponent plus minus and the matchup, I think, is more important for those positions that have a larger workload, quarterback and running back, than they are for the pass catchers.